Hello and welcome to the 2021 Northern Virginia Housing Expo. This year marks our 11th year of offering education, resources, and connections for those interested in housing issues and affordable housing opportunities in Northern Virginia. Today's workshop topic is household budgeting and finance, and our presenter today is Cynthia Schell from the Virginia Cooperative Extension, Prince William. Today, Cynthia will share information to help you get your household on the right financial path. If you know someone who wasn't able to join us this morning, please let them know that a recording of this webinar will be posted to our Facebook page at 2 p.m. If you have a question, please click the question mark button on the right side of your screen and type your question there. Take it away, Cynthia.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Cynthia Schell, and I'm a volunteer at the Virginia Cooperative Extension, and I'm also a HUD certified housing counselor. Today, our topic is going to focus on preparing your household finances for home ownership. But everybody needs a home, whether it's a home that they buy or a home that they rent. So all of these strategies are great strategies for you to do to have a good financial well-being. Excuse me. So what we're going to cover today is options that you could consider, options that you should consider when you're thinking about buying a home, setting a housing goal, creating a spending and savings plan, understanding where your money goes and how perhaps you can change it, strategies for savings, and understanding that you might put a plan in place and it might not work perfectly. So plans are meant to be changed. It's always important. We always talk about the cycle of developing a plan, executing the plan, and then reviewing the plan. So if something doesn't work, then just change it, fix it. There's no one answer to many of these questions. It's all up to you. So you have to figure out what works best for you. And sometimes we think that we know ourselves better than we actually do. All right, so there's great things about home ownership. One of the most important things about home ownership is it's one of the few ways for those of us who aren't super rich to be able to build wealth. And that's a really important thing. So if you buy a house and keep it for a long period of time, you have the opportunity to increase your wealth without working too hard. There are some tax benefits. The recent tax legislation has kind of limited it. So for those of us who aren't super wealthy, your mortgage may not be deductible just because they raised the standard deduction. Another thing is stable costs, and now that's kind of a pro and a con, but when you're renting, your landlord could potentially raise your rent every year, or your landlord could decide to sell the property and you'd have to move, or lots of things could happen. So when you own a home and you have a mortgage, you have a better understanding of what your fixed costs will be for home ownership. And of course, the pride of ownership, right? It's something that you own. You can do whatever you want to it. You can take care of. It's something tangible. You put money in the bank and you can't really. We don't even have passbooks anymore. There's nothing to look at to say, oh, look, my savings is growing. But when you own a home, you can look at your home and be proud of yourself that you got yourself there. Of course, there's disadvantages too, and one of the issues that we really want you to think about when you're planning or considering buying a home is that there may be higher costs associated with home ownership. For example, most of us here in Virginia, when you buy a new home, you'll be a member of a homeowners association, and the homeowners association has fees associated with that. You'll be responsible for your insurance. If your water heater breaks in the middle of the night, that's on you. You have to fix it. If you have to repair your roof, you have to do that. If your heat pump blows, you have to fix that. So that's a burden of home ownership. You can't just pick up the phone and call your landlord and say, hey, my hot water heater it broke, come fix it. The other thing, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is decreased mobility. If you are considering moving in the next 5 years, I wouldn't recommend buying a home because there's many fixed costs to buying a home. You have to pay realtors fees, and you have to pay fees to get the mortgage, and so you won't be able to make your money back quickly. So my rule of thumb is kind of 5 years. Of course, you can't predict the future, but if you have a reasonable expectation that you're going to stay in your home for 5 years, then it's a good idea. We found in the housing bust in 2008 that a lot of people were stuck. Normally, when we have problems in the economy, people would move to a place that had jobs or had perhaps better opportunities or family or something. But people, since they were underwater in their mortgages, they couldn't sell their house, they couldn't move. So that kept them where they were. And of course, a real possibility is, if you don't pay your mortgage, is foreclosure. Your mortgage never stops. We did have a pause put in place for the pandemic for people who couldn't pay their mortgage because they were out of work. But that's very rare, very unusual. And while the bank does not want to be in the real estate business, they also want to get their money back. And if you do have a foreclosure on your credit report, that's going to restrict your ability to buy a home anytime in the future. One of the things that you need for your financial well-being, and absolutely you need to have in place when you're considering buying a home, is a spending plan. And what we suggest that you do is make a spending plan both for yourself currently, what you're doing now, because of course you know what your expenses are, and then also once you have that, once you feel comfortable with that spending plan, then create a new spending plan that would include your expenses when you become a homeowner. And the importance of the spending plan is it gives you a realistic idea of what money you have and what you can apply to your expenses. And you really want to have a handle on that before you consider a major purchase such as buying a home. Spending plan has two parts, right? Income. Most of us are pretty familiar with our income. We know, if we are a salaried employee, then we have a regular deposit to our bank account. So we're pretty familiar with that. However, we don't always know what our expenses are. And I'll talk a little bit more about expenses, but there's three major kinds of expenses. The first ones are fixed, and that is something like rent and utilities. They come every month. You have a pretty good idea of what they are. And you can plan for them. The next are flexible spending, and that is food, groceries, clothes, incidentals, going out to eat, car expenses, and then finally we have debt, and that is if you're carrying debt, if you have a loan, or if you have balances on your credit cards, then a certain amount of your money every month goes to paying off that debt. So your spending plan is going to be an organized list of what you expect your spending to be over the coming year. And when we help our clients develop spending plans, we try to look at expenses on a monthly basis, but we consider expenses for the entire year. And the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure that we're accounting for all of our expenses, so unforeseen expenses don't trip us up. For example, if for those of us that own a car, the county sends us a bill every fall. Well, you might not think of that bill in March, but you're going to have to pay the bill come October. So we want you to be thinking about that, and we want you to be budgeting for that. So if you include that expense in your spending plan, then you'll be prepared, and that won't throw you for a loop when it comes. Likewise, things, fun things. For example, purchasing gifts if you like to spend money at Christmas, or going on vacation. What we suggest that you do is identify a budget for that, a budget for how much you're going to spend on gifts, how much you're going to spend on vacation, and then allot for that amount every month. And you can put it in savings, and then when it comes time to spend, instead of increasing your credit card debt, you have the money to be able to pay for it. Of course, when you become a homeowner, you also have to make sure that you're planning for emergencies, because there's always going to be something that you didn't know was going to come. There's things that you can be better educated about, but you can't foresee the future. And even if you buy, for example, a warranty, many people buy a home warranty, and I would suggest it if you have the option to get one. But those things only cover so much, and there's going to be something that happens that you have to take care of for your house. So in order to plan for those future expenses, what you want to do is what I call self-insure, right? So you buy insurance, you pay money insurance for your car, for example, every month or every 6 months, and you don't really want to, you're paying that money hoping you don't want to be in a car accident. You don't want to use that money. Likewise, when you're putting away money for future expenses, you don't want bad things to happen, but they do happen. So one of the things that we suggest is that you pay yourself first, right? So that means that part of your expenses every month is money that's going to savings. So one of the best ways to do that is direct deposit. Now, you may have your pay deposited directly into your checking account. What we suggest is perhaps opening a savings account and designating a certain amount of money to go off every paycheck into that savings account. Put it somewhere where it's a little bit harder to get to. Worst case scenario, at the end of the month, you go back and raid your savings. Best case scenario is you learn to live on less money and you kind of forget about it. And that money it will increase every pay period and give you a cushion in case you have a financial emergency. There are other, for example, if you have a match savings opportunity, such as if your employer has a retirement plan, a 401k plan, where you're putting money, if your employer is matching any part of the money that you contribute, you should contribute up to that amount, because that's free money. That's a guaranteed return on your money. So 100% you should make sure that you're taking advantage of those opportunities. As a general rule of thumb, nothing's perfect, but we suggest that your savings and debt is 25% of your income, right? So hopefully, the goal would be to have your debt be even less. But as a rule of thumb, that would be what you'd want to carve out to put in your savings. So just remember that everybody's different, and your situation may vary. So you might at the beginning be putting more money towards debt, and then move towards more money towards savings. But we always want to make sure that you try to reduce your living expenses to where you have the opportunity to put money away for savings. So when you think about developing a plan for your financial future, you want to establish some goals, and the factors to consider are where you are, what your resources are, how long, what time period are you looking for, and when we talk about developing goals, we talk about putting them in like a 1 or 2 year time frame. Not, you might have, a long-term goal. I want to be able to retire, comfortably at 65, which is great. But you want to, in the interim, you want to establish some shorter-term goals that will help you get there. Make your goals personal. Make them fit your situation. If you think, there's no kind of right goals and wrong goals. You might, if you have children, one of your goals might be that you want to be able to support them in their college. If you might have a goal to support your parents, or you might have a goal to, to get a home, or get a larger home, or save more money for your retirement. But the important thing to do is to write it down and to own it, right? So don't just say, oh, someday I'll start saving money. Figure out what you want to save your money for, some specific goal, and then start doing it. When we talk about developing goals, we talk about SMART goals. And so SMART goals are specific. So not, I want to be rich or I want to save a lot of money, right? A specific goal would be, I want to save $1,000, or I want to improve my credit score. I want to pay down my debt on my MasterCard. They need to be measurable, right? So again, rich isn't measurable, but $1,000 is, right? If you've saved $1,000, if you've saved 1,100, you exceeded your goal. If you saved 500, you didn't meet your goal. They have to be adaptable, right? I mean, they have to be, if saving $100 a month just isn't working for you, then revise your goal and change it to be $75 a month. Or if it's super easy, then make it $125 a month, right? You own your goals. The goals are for you to meet what your financial well-being. So you're the owner. On the other hand, they have to be realistic, right? If you're making $2,000 a month, you're not going to be able to save $3,000 a month, right? And for example, if your goal is to improve your credit score, you are not going to improve your credit score in 2 months. It's going to take 6 months to a year, even if you're doing all the right things. So you want to make sure that you have a realistic goal, so that you don't get defeated. And then the next thing is to have a timetable, right? So the important thing about having a timetable is so that you don't feel defeated by your goal, right? So as I was saying, excuse me. So I was saying, for improving your credit score, if you start working to reduce your debt or address perhaps some collections, it's going to take some time for that trend to show. So making that goal be in a year is going to make you be able to see progress and not be defeated. And on the flip side, saying I want to save, $1,000 in a year, you can look after 3 months and see, where am I towards my goal? And that actually can make you feel better if you see, gee, I established a goal and I'm on my way to meeting it. I'm going to keep going. This is working for me. That's great. That's going to help you achieve your financial goals. So when you create your spending plan, it's got to reflect your lifestyle. You can't, when you look at your expenses and you're looking for areas for change, I think that you should look really hard at places where you can eliminate or reduce spending, but don't punish yourself, because if you make it too dramatically different from what you're doing, then it's not going to work. So it's kind of like going on a diet and saying, okay, I'm never going to eat any potato chips again. But if you eat potato chips all the time, you're going to say, oh, but I miss potato chips. I want to eat potato chips. And then you start eating potato chips and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm never going to make my goals, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to start cutting. We all want to fix things immediately, but you didn't get to the situation where you are immediately. And so you're not going to change your situation immediately. So you just want to be realistic about this. On the other hand, one of the things about establishing goals is when you look at where you're spending your money, you want to make sure that that's consistent with your goals, right? So if your goal is to save money to buy a house and, you're spending all your money on, going out to eat, you have to think, well, am I spending my money in a way that's consistent with where I want, with my goals, with my financial goals? And you should think hard about that. And that's one of the reasons we talk about, and I use these comparisons frequently, but just like one of the ways that's been successful for many people to improve their eating habits is to have a food diary, right? And it works both ways. One of them is that you have a record of what you ate. But so then you can say, well, gee, maybe this isn't. I'm not following a healthy lifestyle. But more important, the fact that you have to write it down and look at it, a lot of times that in of itself will change people's behavior, right? I don't want to write down I ate a box of Oreos, right? Because then it's there in black and white, and I've admitted to it. So the same way, recording what you spend, however you record it, can kind of make you think twice about what you're spending your money on and where you might want to spend your money on in the future. So part of developing a spending plan is to set spending amounts. Either parameters, either by dollars or by percentages. And the easiest way to try to figure that out is to use your past expenses, right? So what we suggest that you do is you track your expenses for a month or two. Track them any way that works for you, right? Some people like to track them in a spreadsheet. Some people have just a notes application on their phone. There are some apps that help you track expenses. Do be careful because some of them are offered by companies that are either trying to sell you something else or they want your personal information. So just be careful of the source of those apps, but there are apps that do it. Or you can just buy a notebook and write it down, right? So whatever works for you, or you could keep your receipts, just make sure that you're keeping your receipts and, put them in an envelope somewhere and then go through them, every weekend and see where you're spending your money. And then of course, the cycle, right? Review, adjust, repeat. So you may be tracking your grocery spending, and 1 month you spent $200, and so you use that as a marker, but then you find out that, well, that was $200 because you were on vacation for a week, or you went out to dinner, or something else, and that's not a realistic number, so you need to adjust it. And so you want to do that. That's going to take some time for you to do that, a couple months, for you to be sure that you've got the right numbers, right? And then once you establish those, try to keep within them. So once you've established your spending plan, and areas that you where you're spending your money, perhaps where you can start saving, then we want to talk about establishing what we call a comfort level for how much money you can spend on your mortgage, right? Now, one of the things that you need to be careful about is that when you qualify for a mortgage, you may qualify for a larger amount than what's in your comfort level, right? So, your mortgage broker may say that you're qualified for a $200,000 mortgage, but when it comes down to monthly payments, that just doesn't work for you. So you want to make sure that you are comfortable with how much money you spend on your mortgage, because of course it's not just the money on your mortgage. There's taxes and insurance, and the other associated homeowners expenses, perhaps the homeowners association expense. So just the mortgage number isn't the number that you want to look at. So as a good exercise, and remember I was talking about the before home and after home, what you could do is take the amount that you think you're going to be paying per month for your mortgage, and if your current rent payment is less, save the difference. And if you can save the difference, then you can pay the larger amount when you get your home. But it's better practice to pay before you've signed your life away for 30 years than afterwards. So when you're planning to be a homeowner, as I mentioned earlier, get a good grip on what your expenses are now, adjust them as possible, and follow that adjustment. So if you say, I want to reduce the amount of money I spend eating out, or I want to reduce the amount of money I'm spending on groceries or clothes, reduce it, and try to follow it and make sure that you can do that. And then start making a plan with the house, right? So with the additional taxes and savings and homeowners association expenses. Yep, and as we talked about, practice paying your mortgage for 3 months. It's a good way to save money, and it's a good way to make sure that you're comfortable with paying your mortgage when you get it. I talked about these before, practical ways of tracking expenses, keeping receipts, keeping just a guide in your pocket or on your notes app. People do look at their, if you pay all your bills with a debit card, you can look. Sometimes when you look at the expenses on your statement, it's not always as clear what it is, but there's many options, and they're including Excel or Quicken to keep track of this money. So when you're following your spending plan, you want to make sure that you're going and looking at it monthly, and seeing what you wanted to spend and what you actually did spend, and then recalibrate. Of course, in order to both in order to qualify for a mortgage and also to get a good rate on a mortgage, you're going to need to make sure that your credit report is in order. And from your credit report, your credit score is established. So for credit reporting agencies, there are three major agencies: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And they used to be divided kind of on different parts of the country, but now everybody has information reported to all three, but it may not be the same information. So you want to make sure that you're looking at all of them. Usually what a lender will do is they'll kind of take the middle number. So if there's three different numbers, they'll take the middle number, unless there's some wild difference, unless one of them's way high or way low, in which case they may take a closer look to see whether there's something that's, that maybe one of the credit reporting agencies doesn't have. So you're entitled to a free copy of your report if you're denied credit, or you receive public assistance, or you're unemployed. But until April 2022, you can get a copy of your credit report for free every week. So I strongly encourage you. There's no reason not to. I'm not saying go every week. But getting a copy of your credit report, and especially if you're working on improving your credit, getting updates to make sure that these changes are being made is a great idea. Your credit report is at annualcreditreport.com. That's the only place you should go to get your free credit report. And even though that's annualcreditreport.com, the reason why it's .com is the government requires the credit reporting agencies. It's a law that they have to provide access to a free credit report at least once a year, and they maintain the website. So that's why it's not a government site. On your credit report, there's 5 major sections. You should look at all of them and make sure that they're all correct. There's your personal information, so that includes your name and your address. Make sure that information, even your address, make sure that that's correct. If there's an address on there that's not yours, get it fixed, because credit reporting agencies you don't provide them the information. They collect this information on your behalf. And so one of the things that they do is they match information. So they're looking for information that's similar. And so you wouldn't want to have somebody else's information be put on your credit report. So make sure all your personal information is correct. It also includes public information. So that would be something like a judgment against you for child support or for tax debt. That would be on your credit report. Collection accounts, anything that's gone to collection is on your credit report, as well as your current creditor information. So example, if you have an open credit card, that's going to be on your credit report, along with how long that's been open and how you've paid it, as well as inquiries, credit inquiries. And we talk about two types of inquiries. They call hard inquiries and soft inquiries. A soft inquiry would be an inquiry, for example, a current creditor may look at your credit report just to make sure that nothing's changed. That's a soft inquiry. A hard inquiry would be if you go into a car dealership and say, I want to buy a car, can you give me a loan? And they look up your credit. That's a hard inquiry. The next 2 slides, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how your credit score is determined. And these aren't hard and fast numbers, but they're a good general guideline so you can understand what you can do to improve your credit score if it's low. The most important 35% of your score is your payment history. So that is paying your bills and paying them on time. Even if you're a day late, that's not on time. You want to make sure that you pay your bills on time, and that goes 100% when you get a mortgage, because your mortgage, they'll say the payment is due on the 1st of the month, but you have a 10-day grace period. If you read your mortgage documents, you'll find out that technically, if you do not pay on the 1st of the month, you are late. And they can go after you they can report that as a late payment, and they technically could foreclose on your house for being late. They're not going to, but they could. So you have to be aware, on time is on time. So just because a grace period is available doesn't mean that the payment's not late. The other 30%. Another 30% of your score is the amount owed to creditors, and we call that your debt utilization ratio. That is something that your mortgage broker is going to look at very closely. So that is your total debt over your total income. So that's your debt to income ratio. And likewise, for your credit report, they look at your total owed over your total credit. So for example, if you have a $1,000 credit line on a credit card, they're going to look at the amount that you're carrying, and you're carrying a balance. They look at that amount, both for the individual credit card and for all of the credit that's been extended to you. So if you have one credit card with $1,000 credit limit, you never want to carry more than $300, because then your credit utilization is going to be more than 30%, and creditors don't like that. Why don't they like that? Because if you have a $1,000 balance credit line and you're using $1,000 and something happens, what are you going to do? Well, you probably aren't going to pay your credit card bill. And so creditors don't like that. They want you to have available credit, so if something happens, you have the ability to use your available credit as opposed to defaulting on your payments. Another part of your score, 15%, is your credit history. If you're young and starting out, there's little that you can do, but you want to be aware of this factor in your credit score when for example, some people, in an effort to improve their credit score, they'll cancel all their credit cards. Well, that's not always a good idea, because, for example, if you've had a credit card for 10 years and you cancel it, then you've lost that credit history. And establishing credit, it's important to have longevity. So not to be turning over these credit cards every few months. That will not help you improve your score. If you're just starting out, there's only so much you can do. You can wait a few years, you'll be older, and you'll have a longer credit history. But do look at your credit report, and you'll note that it does have the day that the account was established, and they factor that in. 10% of your score is new. Well, the slide calls it new credit obtained. That's what we call the inquiries. So that is you looking at for credit. Now people get, I think, unnecessarily concerned about this, and the reason why I say unnecessarily concerned, it is something you should be aware of, but as you've noticed, your payment history is much more important than your credit inquiries. Don't not shop around just because you're afraid of inquiries on your credit. So, for example, if you want to buy a new car, don't just go to one place. Shop around. Go to, if you have a credit union or a bank, go there. Perhaps go to the dealer. Perhaps some go to other financial institutions that offer auto loans, and see what you can do. When this information, and of course they would all pull your credit, so that's a hard inquiry, but the credit reporting agencies are smart enough to know that, well, Cynthia's has 5 inquiries, but they're all for cars, and it's all within, a month or 45-day period. So I know that Cynthia's buying a new car. That does not punish you, because they do want you to be a smart consumer, and they want you to be able to shop around to get the best rate. So that will not punish you. However, if I go to buy a new car, and then I go to finance some furniture and buy a house, and get a new credit card, and all those inquiries are hitting my credit report, then the credit reporting agencies are going to go, whoa, Nellie, like, what is Cynthia doing? She's going for all these different kinds of credit. Something's going on. I'm nervous, right? And when creditors get nervous, then they want to, their first instinct is always to withhold their credit. So that's not a good idea. And if you're buying a home, absolutely do not get any new credit, especially between the time when you're qualified for a mortgage and when you close, because that could literally, they run your credit the day that you close. So you want to make sure that nothing bad has hit your credit in that time. And then 10% of your score is the type of credit that you have. If you only, this doesn't mean go out and get more credit, but if you have different types of loans that you're paying, so for example, if you have an installment loan, such as a student loan or a car note, and a credit card, and a mortgage, that's going to look a little bit better, because you're showing the creditors that you can pay these different types of accounts. That doesn't mean run out and get more accounts, but it will improve your credit score if you have more than one. Excuse me, just as a graphic, I just want you to see that the most important things that contribute to your credit score are your payment history, so paying your bills, paying them on time, and the amounts owed. That means your credit utilization, how much of your credit you're actually using. So if you want to improve your credit score, you really want to be looking at these two. These are the most important, your payment history and your amounts owed. So you want to reduce the amount that you're carrying on your credit cards, and you want to make sure that you're paying your bills on time. And that'll start to move your credit score. Again, it's not going to move it quickly, but it's going to start to move it, and you'll be able to see improvements in your credit score. As I said, be careful. Do not make any major credit purchases prior to purchasing home and the loan closing. Many people get excited. They're going to get a new home. They want to get furniture. They want to do all this stuff, but you don't, because it'll impact your credit, as I explained. It also will affect your debt to income ratio. As I hope I explained, that's the total amount that you owe over your income. And most government-backed mortgages and many mortgage brokers, they just look at that straight number. So there's no thought about it. If that number doesn't match their minimum, then you don't get the loan. So you don't want to have that. And you have to be careful, because as soon as the advertisers find out that you're a potential new home buyer, they'll be all over you, sending you all this horrible junk mail, trying to get you to give money to them, or to kind of go in one of these harebrained schemes to spend money on things that you don't need to. If you want to get ready to buy a home and you want to reduce your debt, one of the things that we suggest is powerpay.org. That is a free site. It was developed by a cooperative extension in, I think, Utah. And it allows you to make a plan so that you can help figure out perhaps, so for example, if you're carrying balances on 3 credit cards, you'd put those balances in, how much interest you're paying, and look at different options for paying off those cards. And PowerPay can help you figure out, perhaps you should pay one card off first, or maybe pay off the card with the highest interest first. It can help you look at different options for paying off your bills. It's a nice little tool. And it doesn't collect any personal information. Again, it's by a cooperative extension group, so it is free and they don't take any of your personal information. So it's a great tool to use. Powerpay.org. Once you're a new homeowner, it's even more important to maintain your spending and savings plan. You want to make sure that you keep records on what you're spending your money on. You certainly want to keep good records of your mortgage and your home improvement expenses. And you want to make sure that you update your spending and savings plan so that you're able to accommodate unforeseen expenses and give yourself your own financial well-being. You don't want to be sweating, oh, can I pay this every month? You want to say, oh, I'm comfortable because I know that I have a plan that I can follow and this plan works for me. Of course, you want to maintain your credit. You want to make sure that you continue to be paying your bills on time. This is so important in case stuff happens. I don't need to explain this to anybody anymore. The government can shut down. So if you're working for the government, all of a sudden you don't have a paycheck, or there can be a mortgage crisis, or there can be a global pandemic. You never know what's going to happen. If you are following your spending and savings plan that works for you and maintaining good credit, this will come and pay yourself back if you fall into bad times, if something happens, if you lose your job or you don't have the ability to pay your mortgage for some reason. If you go to your creditor and say, I'm having problems, before you go into default, you call up your creditor. They are happy to hear from you, and they will help you make a plan. I mean, they're not happy that you're not able to pay as you agreed, but they will work with you if you go to them before it becomes a problem. After you default on a payment, they are not going to be as willing to work with you because they don't trust you, because you didn't pay, and they don't like it when you don't pay. So you always want to make sure that you're keeping up with your savings and spending plan, paying yourself first, keeping money for savings, and paying your bills on time. Just to summarize, it's not keeping track of your money is a full-time job. It's your job. It's your money. It's your life. You can't outsource this to someone else. You can't say, oh, okay, I'm going to hire somebody to come fix my credit report. It doesn't work that way. Even if somebody could come in and magically fix your credit report, which P.S. they can't, that's only going to work once. And for as long as you're on this earth, you need to be managing your finances, and this is important to you. So you have to keep focus on your goals and your financial plan. So create your SMART financial goals. Develop your own personal spending and savings plan. Make sure that it fits your lifestyle. Make sure that it's in writing. Make sure that you follow up on it, that you go back and make sure that you're following your plan and see what's working and what doesn't work for you. Create a reserve fund. That's your savings. That's there in case something happens, which it always will. Create an emergency fund that you can use for these expenses. Pay yourself first in order to create these funds. Track your expenditures and review. Just finally, if you want to get more information, Cooperative Extension, that's where I volunteer. We are a HUD certified housing and financial counseling program. If you go to HUD.gov, you can look up housing counseling agencies. You will find us, and you will find other agencies that have HUD certified financial counselors. The most important thing that I hope you take away is if you want more assistance, you can get it, and you can get it for free. So if you're considering assistance, please consider getting it from a free source, and please consider a HUD certified housing counselor. Cooperative Virginia, the Prince William County, Virginia Cooperative Extension offers financial seminars, such as this one, we address both specific topics, and general topics, improving your credit, working on your privacy, getting ready for taxes. We also offer rental counseling, housing counseling, and financial counseling. And we're starting up again our first-time homebuyers program, which is offered twice a month, once on the western end of the county in Manassas, and once on the eastern end in the Ferlazzo building. If you have any questions, our website is pwcva.gov/money. So thank you for your time. I hope you got something out of this, and good luck, and I wish you a best financial future. And I'm not sure if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I'm not seeing any questions here. Just a reminder that if you have a question, you can type it after clicking the question mark button on the right side of your screen. And we'll give about 30 seconds for anyone to type a question if they may have it. All right, Cynthia, I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.